Cycling is a beautiful sport. It's one man on his mechanical machine going as fast as possible on the open roads, with nothing backing him up except his willpower. 50 personnel and a dozen teammates who are there to hard carry right until the end so he can win. But road racing and Grand Tour riding isn't the topic for today, because we're here to talk about cycling, which isn't the same thing. We're here to talk about what happens when you, an everyday citizen of the sidewalk, decides to buy a bike, and it's one of three things. You become a commuter, you become a cyclist, or you sell it on Craigslist after a month and see if something else works. Regardless of which camp you fall into, the first step of buying a new bike is always the same, which is to gain at least 50 pounds, because the more obese you are when you buy a new bike, the more upvotes you'll get when you take a picture with it. So once you've got some mad Reddit karma, what you might notice in the real world is that while cyclists don't consider themselves commuters, most commuters do consider themselves cyclists. And while most pedestrians and drivers think they're all the same as well, it's really not the case. Simply put, commuters ride bicycles as a means to an end, for going to the grocery store and back again, or to get them to and from work each day. This contrasts starkly with the cyclist, who doesn't go to and from work anymore because he quit his job to have more time on the bike, living solely off the college fund for his kids he'll never have after his wife divorced him. The commuter is someone who always lives in fear, and every day he walks to the bike rack thinking to himself, "Oh man, I hope my bicycle hasn't been stolen again." Whereas despite not owning a lock to save weight, the cyclist does not fear his bike will be stolen, because that would mean the thief would have to wait until he got off the bike first, which hasn't happened for years. Unlike the commuter, the cyclist does not fear vehicles, as he has come to terms with his own mortality. That if his life were to end after a middle-aged mother in an SUV T-bones his Cervelo while he's running a red light on the way to the start line of his local Cat 3 crit, so be it. A life of safety, that is to say, the life of a commuter, requires an ultimate sacrifice, and that sacrifice is speed. A sacrifice that no cyclist would ever make, instead risking his own collarbones and supple skin to the harsh reality of the pavement. In fact, there's only one thing that a true cyclist fears, and that is the fear of nature itself. More specifically, winds over 10 kilometers an hour coming from the front and/or sideward direction. Accordingly, the first dictum of cycling is clear. Air